The stars looked different from the bridge of the Aurora's dawn, and Captain Lisa Martinez knew that meant they were far from home. She stood at the main window, watching the alien sun of Xerion Prime grow larger as their ship moved closer to the planet. Her hands were steady on the rail, but her heart beat faster than usual. This was the most important mission of her life, and maybe the most important mission in human history. Lisa had been a diplomat for 12 years, but before that she was a soldier. She knew how to fight, but she preferred to talk. Words could solve problems that guns could not. That was why Earth Command had chosen her to lead this mission. The Scaleth Empire was powerful, and humanity needed allies, not enemies. Behind her, Commander Jake Harrison checked the ship's weapon systems one more time. Jake was her oldest friend and the best security chief in the fleet. He had short brown hair and worried eyes that never missed anything dangerous. He did not like this mission. He thought they were flying into a trap. The weapons are ready, but I still think this is a bad idea, Jake said quietly. We know almost nothing about these aliens except that they control 50 star systems and have ships bigger than ours. Lisa turned to face him. She was a tall woman with black hair tied back in a neat bun. Her uniform was clean and pressed with the gold bars of a captain on her shoulders. She had kind brown eyes, but they could become hard as steel when she needed to be tough. We have to try, Jake, she said. Earth has 3 billion people and 12 colonies. The Scaleth have 50 worlds and 100 billion people. If we fight them, we lose. If we can make peace, everyone wins. Dr. Amy Collins looked up from her computer screen. Amy was the team's expert on alien life and culture. She was young, only 28, with red hair and green eyes. She was very smart, but sometimes too trusting. She believed that all intelligent life could be reasoned with. The Scaleth are not like other aliens we have met, Amy said. They are warriors. Their whole society is built around being strong and fighting. They respect strength above everything else. But that does not mean they are evil. Maybe they just need to see that humans can be strong too. Lieutenant Ben Foster nodded from his position at the communications console. Ben was the youngest member. Of the team, only 25, with blonde hair and blue eyes. He was good with languages and technology. He had spent months learning the Scaleth language and studying their culture. Dr. Collins is right, Ben said. The Scaleth have a thing called the testing. When they meet new species, they make them prove they are worthy of respect. It is like a trial or a challenge. If we pass their test, they might accept us as equals. Jake shook his head. And if we fail? Ben's face became serious. Then they see us as weak. And the Scaleth do not make deals with weak species. They conquer them. Lisa felt a cold feeling in her stomach, but she did not show it. A good captain never let her crew see her fear. Then we will not fail, she said simply. The ship's computer made a soft sound. Approaching Xerion Prime orbital space, it announced. Scaleth ships detected. Lisa moved to her captain's chair and sat down. Through the window, she could see 3 massive ships moving toward them. The Scaleth vessels were dark gray and covered with spikes and armor. They looked like weapons, not like ships meant for peace. Incoming transmission, Ben said. His hands moved quickly over his controls. They are speaking in their language. I can translate. The main screen filled with the image of a Scaleth warrior. Lisa had seen pictures before, but seeing one in person was different. The alien was tall and covered in dark green scales. His head was long and narrow, like a snake, with yellow eyes that seemed to look right through her. He wore black armor with red markings that showed his rank. "Human vessel," the alien said in a deep, rough voice. "I am Commander Vextar of the Scaleth Defense Fleet. You will follow us to the planet's surface. Any deviation from our course will be seen as an act of war." Lisa stood up and smoothed her uniform. "This is Captain Lisa Martinez of the human vessel Aurora's Dawn. We come in peace, seeking diplomatic relations between our peoples." The Scaleth commander made a sound that might have been laughter, but it was not friendly. "Peace is for the weak. You will be tested, human. If you prove worthy, you may speak with High Commander Zethkar. If not, you will learn what happens to weak species who dare to enter Scaleth space." The transmission ended. Lisa looked at her crew. Jake's hand was near his weapon, even though it would do no good against 3 warships. Amy looked nervous, but excited. Ben was checking his translation. Equipment again. "Well," Lisa said, trying to sound calm, "I guess we are about to meet our hosts." The Aurora's Dawn followed the Scaleth ships down to the planet. Xerion Prime was a desert world with red sand and black rocks. The cities were built like fortresses, with high walls and guard towers. Everything looked like it was made for war. They landed at a spaceport that was really more like a military base. Scaleth soldiers in armor were everywhere. They carried weapons that looked very advanced and very deadly. Lisa noticed that all the other ships in the port were also military vessels. There were no trade ships or civilian craft. As they walked down the ramp of their ship, Lisa felt the heat of the alien sun on her face. The air smelled of metal and burning fuel. 50 Scaleth warriors stood in perfect lines, watching them. Their yellow eyes never blinked. A new Scaleth approached them. This one was even bigger than the others, with more elaborate armor and scars across his face. His scales were darker, almost black, and he moved with the confidence of someone who had never lost a fight. "I am High Commander Zethkar," he said. His voice was like grinding stone. "You are the humans who wish to speak with the Scaleth Empire." Lisa stepped forward. She had practiced this moment many times, but her heart was still beating fast. "I am Captain Lisa Martinez, representing the United Earth Government. We seek peaceful relations and mutual cooperation between our species." Zethkar looked at her for a long moment. His yellow eyes seemed to be measuring her, weighing her strength. "You speak of peace, human, but peace is earned, not given. Your species is new to this galaxy. You have not proven that you deserve to exist alongside the Scaleth." "What must we do to prove ourselves?" Lisa asked. The High Commander smiled, showing sharp teeth. "You must face the testing. It is our ancient way. All species who wish to deal with the Scaleth must prove their worth in combat. If you win, we will speak of peace. If you lose..." He did not finish the sentence, but his meaning was clear. Lisa felt Jake tense beside her. This was exactly what he had been afraid of, but they had come too far to turn back now. "I accept your challenge," she said. Amy stepped forward. "Captain, maybe we should discuss this with Earth Command first." But Zethkar laughed. "The human female shows wisdom. Perhaps you are not ready for the testing after all." Lisa felt anger rise in her chest. The alien was trying to make her look weak in front of her crew. "I said I accept. When do we begin?" "Tomorrow, when the sun reaches its highest point," Zethkar said. "Tonight, you will be our guests. Rest well, human. Tomorrow you will learn what it means to face Scaleth steel." As they were led to their quarters, Jake whispered in Lisa's ear. "This feels wrong. They are too confident, too sure that they will win." Lisa nodded, but she had made her choice. Tomorrow she would fight for humanity's future. She only hoped she was strong enough to win. The attack on New Geneva was supposed to be a simple demonstration of Scaleth power. 3 heavy cruisers would destroy the human colony's defenses, then land troops to capture prisoners for public execution. It would be broadcast across the galaxy as proof that the Scaleth Empire was unstoppable. High Commander Zethkar himself led the fleet, wanting to personally oversee humanity's first real defeat. As his ships approached the colony, he stood on the bridge of his flagship and thought about the human female whose hand he had severed. Her screams had been so satisfying to hear. "Beginning orbital bombardment," his weapons officer reported. "The human defenses are pathetic. This will be over in minutes." But as the first energy beams lanced down toward the colony, something went wrong. The beams struck empty buildings and abandoned defensive positions. The colony appeared to be deserted. "Where are the humans?" Zethkar demanded. "Scan for life signs." "I am detecting approximately 50,000 humans in underground shelters," the sensor operator replied. "But something else is strange. There are multiple energy signatures that do not match human technology." Before Zethkar could respond, explosions began erupting across his ship's hull. The bridge lights flickered, and warning alarms started screaming. "We are under attack!" the weapons officer shouted. "But I cannot locate the source." Lisa Martinez watched the Scaleth flagship through the scope of her targeting system. She was floating in space in a stealth suit, invisible to their sensors, with enough explosives strapped to her body to destroy a building. Her mechanical hand interfaced directly with her weapons, giving her precision that no normal human could achieve. "Target acquired," she whispered into her communicator. "Beginning phase 2. She fired a magnetic charge that attached itself to the Scaleth ship's hull. The charge contained a virus that Ruby had designed specifically for Scaleth computer systems. Within seconds, the virus was spreading through their network, taking control of their own weapons and turning them against each other. The 3 Scaleth cruisers began firing on each other as their weapon systems were hijacked. Zethkar watched in horror as his proud fleet tore itself apart with its own guns. "How is this possible?" he screamed. "Humans do not have this technology." "Maybe you do not know humans as well as you think," a familiar voice said over the communication system. Zethkar's blood turned to ice. He knew that voice. It was the human female, the one whose hand he had cut off to prove Scaleth's superiority. But that was impossible. She was weak, broken, defeated. "Impossible," he whispered. "You are dead. I destroyed you." "You destroyed the woman I used to be," Lisa's voice replied. "But in doing so, you created something much more dangerous. You created a human who thinks like a Scaleth. You taught me that mercy is weakness and that only strength matters. Thank you for the lesson." Lisa's stealth suit brought her to an airlock on the Scaleth flagship. Marcus's training had taught her to plant shaped charges with surgical precision. The airlock exploded inward, creating a breach that sucked several Scaleth warriors into space. She moved through the ship like a shadow of death. Her mechanical hand could become a blade, a gun, or a tool of electrical torture depending on what the situation required. The Scaleth warriors who tried to stop her died quickly and quietly. Behind her, Ruby's virus continued to spread through the ship's systems. Life support began failing in sections of the vessel. Gravity generators malfunctioned, sending warriors floating helplessly through the corridors. Emergency bulkheads sealed randomly, trapping crew members in sections that were slowly running out of air. Lisa made her way toward the bridge, leaving a trail of dead scaleth in her wake. Each body she left bore the same mark, a bloody handprint made with her mechanical fingers. It was her signature, her calling card, her promise that she had been there. When she reached the bridge, Zethkar was waiting for her with a dozen of his best warriors. They had formed a defensive circle around their commander, weapons ready. "So the weak little human comes for revenge," Zethkar said, trying to sound confident, but Lisa could see the fear in his yellow eyes. "You cannot defeat all of us." Lisa stepped into the bridge, and the warriors saw her clearly for the first time. The woman who had begged for peace was gone. In her place stood something that looked human, but moved like a predator. Her mechanical hand gleamed like polished steel, and her eyes were as cold as the space between stars. "I do not need to defeat all of you," she said simply. "I just need to defeat him." The warriors attacked all at once, but Lisa was no longer thinking like a diplomat or even like a soldier. She was thinking like a scaleth, and the scaleth respected only one thing: overwhelming violence. Her mechanical hand became a whirling blade that cut through armor like paper. Warriors fell around her, their blood spattering the walls of the bridge. When one tried to shoot her, she caught the energy beam with her metal palm and redirected it back at him. Within minutes, all the warriors were dead except for Zethkar. He stood alone, holding his ceremonial sword with shaking hands. "This is impossible," he said. "Humans are weak. You are weak. I proved it when I cut off your hand." Lisa advanced on him slowly, her mechanical fingers clicking together like the sound of breaking bones. "You proved nothing except your own ignorance," she replied. "You thought that taking my hand would make me helpless. Instead, you gave me something better than flesh and blood. You gave me a weapon that you could never understand." Zethkar raised his sword and lunged at her. Lisa caught the blade in her mechanical hand and crushed it to pieces. Then she grabbed Zethkar by the throat and lifted him off the ground. "You wanted to send a message to the galaxy about scaleth strength," she said, as he struggled uselessly in her grip. "Let me send a different message." She activated the recording system on the bridge, broadcasting her words to every scaleth ship in the system. "This is Lisa Martinez, the human you tried to break. You cut off my hand to prove that my species was weak. But you made a mistake. You left me alive, and anything less than death was not enough." She squeezed harder, and Zethkar's struggles became weaker. "I want every scaleth in the galaxy to see this. I want them to understand what happens when you mistake human diplomacy for human weakness. You thought you were fighting a species of peacemakers. You were wrong. You are fighting a species that can become whatever it needs to become to survive." With a final squeeze, she crushed Zethkar's throat. The High Commander of the Scaleth Empire died with his own blood on his lips, killed by the same human he had mutilated as a symbol of weakness. Lisa dropped his body and turned to face the camera. "This is just the beginning," she said. "For every human who dies in this war, I will kill 100 Scaleth. For every colony you destroy, I will burn one of your worlds. You wanted to teach the galaxy that humans are weak. Instead, you have taught us that we can be something much more dangerous than you ever imagined." She walked to the bridge's main computer and plugged her mechanical hand directly into the system. Ruby's most destructive virus uploaded instantly, spreading to every Scaleth ship in the fleet. One by one, the mighty warships began to explode as their own systems turned against them. Lisa watched through the bridge windows as the Scaleth fleet destroyed itself. 3 heavy cruisers, hundreds of warriors, and their most celebrated commander, all dead because they had underestimated what a human could become when pushed beyond her limits. But this was only the beginning. Over the following months, Lisa waged a one-woman war against the Scaleth Empire. She struck their supply convoys, assassinated their leaders, and turned their own technology against them. Each attack bore her signature handprint, and soon every Scaleth in the galaxy knew that the human they had tried to humiliate was hunting them. The Scaleth military began to crumble as their warriors became afraid to leave their home worlds. Their empire, built on the belief that they were the strongest species in the galaxy, started to collapse when they discovered that humans could be stronger, smarter, and more ruthless than they had ever imagined. Years later, when the war was over and the Scaleth Empire had surrendered, historians would mark the battle at New Geneva as the turning point. But they would be wrong. The real turning point had come much earlier, in an arena on Zerion Prime, when High Commander Zethkar made the fatal mistake of cutting off a human's hand instead of killing her completely. Lisa Martinez had come to the Scaleth seeking peace. They had sent her home as a weapon, and in the end that weapon had been more than enough to bring down an empire that had thought itself invincible. The galaxy learned a new lesson that day. Humanity was not just another species to be conquered or dismissed. They were something much more dangerous. They were a species that could adapt, evolve, and become whatever they needed to become to survive. And when they chose to become predators, even the strongest empires had reason to fear. 6 months after the Aurora's dawn returned to Earth, Lisa Martinez had disappeared. The official report said she was taking medical leave to recover from her injuries. Her crew had been debriefed and reassigned. The diplomatic mission to the Scaleth Empire was classified as a failure, and Earth began preparing for the war that everyone knew was coming. But Lisa was not resting in some medical facility. She was in the darkest corners of human space, places where Earth's laws did not reach and where dangerous people gathered to do dangerous work. She was learning things that no diplomat should ever need to know. The first place she went was a space station called Haven's End, hidden in the asteroid belt beyond Mars. It was a place where ex-soldiers and mercenaries came to drink away their memories and sell their skills to the highest bidder. Lisa walked into the main bar with her right arm hidden under a long coat. The bartender was a scarred man named Marcus Kane, who had lost his left eye in the border wars. He looked at Lisa with suspicion until she showed him the credits in her account. Then his expression changed to one of professional interest. "I need someone who knows about explosives," Lisa said quietly. "Someone who can teach me to destroy things that are supposed to be indestructible." Marcus studied her face for a long moment. "You are that diplomat, aren't you? The one the lizards cut up on the news feeds." "I used to be a diplomat," Lisa replied. "Now I am something else." Marcus smiled. "I like the sound of that. What kind of targets are we talking about?" "Alien military installations, warships, command centers, things that are heavily defended and thought to be safe." "That is my specialty," Marcus said. "But it will cost you, and not just credits. If you want to learn what I know, you have to prove you have the stomach for it." For the next 2 months, Marcus taught Lisa everything he knew about demolitions and sabotage. She learned to make bombs from common materials, to plant charges that would not be detected until it was too late, and to bring down structures that engineers thought were impossible to destroy. Marcus was impressed by how quickly she learned. "You have a natural talent for this," he told her after she successfully brought down a practice building with a bomb the size of her fist. "Most people hesitate when it comes to real destruction. You do not hesitate at all. Lisa looked at the smoking ruins of the building. I used to hesitate. The Scaleth taught me that hesitation is a luxury I cannot afford. During her training, Lisa also met Ruby Santos, a cyber warfare specialist who had been kicked out of Earth Defense Force for hacking into classified systems. Ruby was small and quiet, with short black hair and eyes that never seemed to blink. She could break into any computer system ever built. I heard about what those lizard things did to you, Ruby said when they first met. I also heard that Earth Command is planning to negotiate with them instead of fighting back. Earth Command thinks like diplomats, Lisa replied. They believe that every conflict can be resolved peacefully. What do you believe? Lisa looked at her bandaged stump. I believe that some species only understand strength. The Scaleth respect power and despise weakness. So I am going to become more powerful than they ever imagined possible. Ruby smiled. I can help with that. These aliens think they are so advanced, but their computer systems are based on the same principles as ours. I can teach you to turn their own technology against them. For another month, Lisa learned cyber warfare from Ruby. She discovered how to plant viruses that would spread through alien networks, how to take control of enemy systems, and how to make their own weapons turn against them. The last member of her team was Carl Brooks, a weapons engineer who specialized in anti-alien technology. Carl was older than the others, with gray hair and steady hands that could build anything from spare parts. He had been working on weapons designed specifically to kill non-human species. The problem with fighting aliens, Carl explained as he showed Lisa his workshop, is that we do not know exactly how their biology works. A weapon that kills a human might only wound an alien, or might not affect them at all. Lisa examined the strange weapons on his workbench. Some looked like normal guns, but others were unlike anything she had ever seen. What do these do? This one fires projectiles that release acid when they hit organic tissue, Carl said, picking up a rifle with a transparent magazine filled with green liquid. This one creates electromagnetic pulses that disrupt alien nervous systems. And this one, he paused at a small device that looked like a metal glove. This one is special. I made it for someone who has lost a hand but still needs to fight. Lisa stared at the device. It was a mechanical hand with articulated fingers and a palm that opened to reveal hidden weapons. How does it work? Neural interface, Carl explained. It reads the electrical signals from your severed nerves and translates them into mechanical movement. But it is not just a replacement hand. It is a weapon system. The fingers can extend into blades, the palm can fire projectiles, and the whole unit can generate electrical discharges strong enough to stop a heart. Lisa picked up the mechanical hand with her left hand. It was heavier than it looked, but perfectly balanced. How long would it take to install? The surgery is complex, Carl admitted. And dangerous. The neural interface has to be connected directly to your nervous system. If something goes wrong, you could lose the use of your entire arm. And if it works? Carl smiled. If it works, you will have a weapon that no alien will expect. They cut off your hand to make you weaker. This will make you stronger than you were before. The surgery took 8 hours and nearly killed her twice, but when Lisa woke up, she could feel the mechanical hand as if it were part of her own body. She flexed the metal fingers and watched them move with perfect precision. How does it feel? Carl asked. Lisa made a fist with her new hand. The metal fingers moved like liquid steel. It feels like justice, she said, while she was training with her new team. Lisa was also gathering intelligence about the Scaleth Empire. She learned that their military was spread across 50 worlds, but their command structure was centralized. If the right targets were hit in the right order, their entire empire could be thrown into chaos. She also discovered that the Scaleth were not as unified as they appeared. There were different clans within their society, and some of them were rivals. If she could turn them against each other, their strength would become their weakness. Most importantly, she learned that the Scaleth were broadcasting her humiliation throughout their empire. Every alien citizen had seen the footage of High Commander Zethkar cutting off her hand. They were using her as an example of human weakness to justify their planned invasion of Earth space. "They are making a mistake," Lisa told her team as they planned their first mission. "They are giving me a symbol to use against them. Every Scaleth in the galaxy knows my face and knows what was done to me. When I start fighting back, they will know exactly who is killing their warriors." Marcus finished assembling a bomb that could destroy a small city. "So what is the plan? Hit their military bases? Attack their supply lines?" "No," Lisa said. "We start with their pride. The Scaleth think they are the strongest species in the galaxy. I am going to prove them wrong, one dead warrior at a time." Ruby looked up from her computer screen. "I have been monitoring their communications. They are planning to attack the human colony at New Geneva next month. It will be their first major strike against Earth space." Lisa smiled with her new metal hand. The mechanical fingers clicked together like the claws of a predator. "Then that is where we will be waiting. For them, they want to send a message to humanity about Scaleth strength. I am going to send a message back about human vengeance." Carl handed her a custom weapon designed specifically for her new hand. "Are you sure about this? Once you start this war, there will be no going back. The Lisa Martinez who tried to make peace with the Scaleth will be gone forever." Lisa looked at her reflection in the polished metal of her mechanical hand. The woman staring back at her was not the same person who had walked into that arena 6 months ago. That woman had believed in peace and diplomacy. This woman believed in something much simpler. "Good," she said. "I want her to be gone. The Scaleth killed the Peacemaker when they cut off my hand. Now they get to meet what they created in her place." Ben's voice came over the communication system. "Lisa, I am picking up Scaleth transmissions. They are broadcasting news about the coming attack on New Geneva. They are saying it will be a demonstration of what happens to weak species who dare to exist in Scaleth space." Lisa checked her weapons one last time. Her new hand could transform into a dozen different killing tools, and her team had enough firepower to level a city. But more than that, she had something the Scaleth had never faced before. A human who had learned to think like they did, who understood that sometimes peace could only be achieved through overwhelming violence. "Let them come," she said. "Let them bring their strongest warriors and their best ships. I want the entire Scaleth Empire to see what happens when you mistake human mercy for human weakness. They wanted to teach the galaxy that humans are weak. I am going to teach them that they were wrong." Lisa woke up in darkness. Her head felt like it was splitting open and her right arm was on fire with pain. For a moment, she could not remember where she was or what had happened. Then the memories came flooding back, and she looked down at her arm. Where her hand should have been, there was only a crude bandage wrapped around the stump of her wrist. The Scaleth had given her just enough medical care to keep her from bleeding to death, but nothing more. The bandage was dirty and stained with dried blood. She was lying on a stone floor in a small cell with metal bars. The walls were black rock, and there was no window. The only light came from a dim torch in the corridor outside. She could hear the heavy footsteps of Scaleth guards walking back and forth. "Lisa!" Jake's voice came from somewhere nearby. "Lisa, can you hear me?" "I am here," she called back, though speaking made her head pound worse. Her voice was weak and hoarse. "Thank God," Amy's voice joined in. "We thought you might not wake up. You lost a lot of blood." Lisa sat up slowly, fighting waves of dizziness. "How long have I been unconscious?" "2 days," Ben answered from another cell. "They have been parading your hand in front of news cameras. They are broadcasting it to their entire empire as proof that humans are weak." Lisa felt something cold and hard settle in her chest. It was not fear or sadness. It was something else, something that she had never felt before. It was a kind of anger that went deeper than rage, colder than hatred. "What about our ship?" she asked. "Still in the spaceport," Jake replied, "but they have guards all around it. Even if we could get out of here, we would never make it to the Aurora's dawn." Lisa tested the bars of her cell. They were solid metal, too strong to bend or break. The lock looked complex, designed to keep much stronger prisoners than humans. But the Scaleth had made one mistake. They thought that losing her hand had made her helpless. "Amy," Lisa called, "do you still have your medical scanner?" They took most of our equipment, but I hid the small scanner in my boot. "Why?" "I need you to scan the lock mechanism on your cell. Look for electronic components, power sources, anything that might be vulnerable to interference." There was silence for a moment, then Amy spoke again. "Lisa, what are you planning?" "I am planning to get us out of here," Lisa said simply. "And then I am going to show the Scaleth what happens when they mistake human diplomacy for human weakness." Amy's scanner made soft beeping sounds as she examined her lock. "It is electronic but with mechanical backup systems. The power source is a small battery pack built into the door frame." "Ben," Lisa continued, "do you still have your communication device?" "The emergency transmitter?" "Yes, it is hidden in my jacket lining." "Good. Can you modify it to generate an electromagnetic pulse?" Ben was quiet for a long moment, thinking. "Maybe. If I remove the safety protocols and overload the power cell, it might create enough interference to disrupt the locks. But it would only work once, and the range would be very limited." "Do it," Lisa ordered. For the next several hours, Ben worked on modifying his device while Amy monitored the guard patrols. The Scaleth guards were professional but predictable. They walked the same route every 30 minutes, spending exactly 5 minutes away from the cell block. Jake was worried. "Even if we get out of the cells, there are still 50 guards between us and our ship, and you can barely stand up, let alone fight." Lisa looked at her bandaged stump. The pain was constant now, but she had learned to push it aside. "I have been thinking about what Amy said. The Scaleth respects strength above everything else. They think cutting off my hand made me weaker. They are about to learn that they were wrong." "Lisa, you are scaring me," Amy said softly. "You sound different." Lisa was different. Something fundamental had changed in her during those 2 days of unconsciousness. The woman who had come here seeking peace was gone. In her place was something harder, colder, more dangerous. "The old Lisa believed that every problem could be solved with words," she said. "The old Lisa is dead. They killed her in that arena." When Ben finished modifying the transmitter, they waited for the next guard patrol. The footsteps echoed down the corridor, then faded away. Ben activated his device. There was a bright flash and a crackling sound. Every electronic lock in the cell block clicked open at once. Emergency lights flickered and went out, leaving them in almost total darkness. "Move!" Lisa whispered. They crept out of their cells and felt their way along the wall toward the exit. Lisa's injured arm made it hard to balance, but she ignored the pain. They had only minutes before the guards returned. The corridor led to a stairway that went up to the main level of the prison. There were 2 guards at the top, but they were not expecting trouble from below. Lisa moved up the stairs like a shadow, despite her injury. The first guard did not even see her coming. Lisa grabbed a ceremonial dagger from his belt and cut his throat before he could make a sound. The second guard turned just in time to see his partner fall, but Lisa was already on him. The dagger went between his ribs and found his heart. Jake stared at her in shock. "Lisa, what have you become?" She wiped the blood from the dagger and tucked it into her belt. "I have become what they made me," she said simply. They made their way through the prison compound, avoiding patrols and security cameras. Lisa moved with a new kind of efficiency, killing guards with cold precision whenever they could not be avoided. Her crew followed, but she could see the fear in their eyes. They were afraid of the Scaleth, but they were starting to be afraid of her too. The spaceport was heavily guarded, just as Jake had said. There were 20 Scaleth warriors around the Aurora's dawn, all armed with energy weapons. In her old life, Lisa would have tried to find a peaceful solution. Now she saw only targets. "There are too many of them," Jake whispered as they hid. "Behind a cargo container." "No," Lisa replied. "There are exactly enough." She studied the guard positions for several minutes, memorizing their patrol patterns and weapon placements. Then she began to move. The Scaleth guards were watching for frontal attacks or escape attempts. They were not watching for a single injured human who moved like death itself. Lisa killed the first guard by throwing the dagger into his neck from 20 feet away. Before his body hit the ground, she had taken his weapon and was moving to the next position. The energy rifle felt strange in her left hand, but she adapted quickly. The second guard died when she put 3 energy bolts through his chest. The third died when she broke his neck with her good arm. By the time the others realized they were under attack, half of their number were already dead. The remaining guards tried to form a defensive line, but Lisa was no longer thinking like a diplomat or even like a soldier. She was thinking like a predator. She used the darkness and the maze of cargo containers to pick them off one by one. When the shooting stopped, 20 Scaleth warriors lay dead around the Aurora's dawn. Lisa stood among their bodies, covered in alien blood, holding a smoking energy rifle. Her crew emerged from cover and stared at her in silence. "Get us out of here," she ordered, walking up the ship's ramp. As the Aurora's dawn lifted off from Xerion Prime, Lisa sat in her captain's chair and watched the planet shrink away below them. Her injured arm throbbed with every heartbeat, but she felt more focused than she had ever been in her life. "Lisa," Amy said carefully, "we need to get you proper medical attention, and we need to report what happened here to Earth Command." "No," Lisa said. "Not yet." "What do you mean, not yet?" Jake asked. Lisa turned to look at her crew. Her brown eyes had become as cold as winter stars. "I mean that this is not over. The Scaleth wanted to send a message to humanity by cutting off my hand. Now I'm going to send a message back." Ben looked at his instruments. "Captain, we are receiving transmissions from Scaleth space. They are broadcasting news of our escape. They are calling it a lucky accident, saying that no weak species could actually defeat Scaleth warriors in combat." Lisa smiled for the first time since the arena. It was not a nice smile. "Let them think that," she said. "Let them think they are still safe. When I come back, I want it to be a complete surprise." "Come back?" Amy looked horrified. Lisa, we barely escaped with our lives. You cannot be thinking of going back there. I am not thinking of going back, Lisa corrected her. I am planning it. The Scaleth Empire has 50 worlds and 100 billion people. They think they are the strongest species in the galaxy. I'm going to prove them wrong. Jake moved closer to her chair. Lisa, listen to yourself. You are talking about taking on an entire alien empire by yourself. That is not possible. Lisa looked at the bandaged stump where her hand used to be. The Scaleth had taken something from her, but they had also given her something in return. They had given her clarity. They had shown her what she needed to become. You are right, she said. The old Lisa could not do it. But I am not the old Lisa anymore. They made sure of that when they cut off my hand. Now they are going to learn that they should have killed me completely, because anything less than that was a mistake. The morning sun of Xerion Prime was like a red eye in the dark sky. Lisa woke early and found that she had barely slept. Her quarters were small and cold, with walls made of black stone. Through the single window, she could see Scaleth warriors, training in the courtyard below. They moved with deadly grace, their weapons flashing in the red light. Jake knocked on her door before entering. He looked tired, too, and worried. I have been thinking about this all night, he said. Something is not right about this testing. In all the information we have about the Scaleth, there is no mention of other species passing their trials. Lisa was putting on her combat gear. Earth Command had given her the best armor they had, but it looked thin and weak compared to what the Scaleth wore. Maybe other species were not strong enough, she said, checking her sidearm. Or maybe the test is designed so that no one can pass, Jake replied. Maybe this is just a way to humiliate other species before they conquer them. Amy entered the room carrying her tablet. Her face was pale, and her hands were shaking slightly. I have been studying their culture more, she said. The testing is not just about combat. It is about showing dominance. The Scaleth believe that only the strongest species deserve to exist. All others should serve or die. Ben appeared in the doorway. Captain, I have been monitoring their communications. They are not just talking about our test. They are discussing invasion plans for human space. They have been planning this for months. Lisa felt ice in her veins, but she kept her voice steady. Even more reason to pass their test. If I can prove that humans are strong, maybe they will reconsider. Jake grabbed her arm. Lisa, they are not going to let you win. This is a trap. We should leave now, while we still can. Lisa looked at her crew, her friends who had followed her across the galaxy. She knew Jake was probably right, but she also knew that running would condemn humanity to war with an enemy they could not defeat. I have to try, she said. If there is even a small chance that this can work, I have to take it. A Scaleth guard appeared at the door. He was young but already covered in scars. The High Commander calls for the human female. The testing begins now. They were led through corridors filled with Scaleth warriors. Lisa noticed that all of them were watching her with hungry eyes. They looked like predators waiting to see blood. The corridor opened into a massive arena with stone walls that rose high into the sky. Thousands of Scaleth filled the seats, all making harsh sounds that might have been cheering. In the center of the arena was a circle marked with white stones. Weapons racks stood at the edges, filled with swords, spears, and other bladed weapons. High Commander Zethkar sat on a throne carved from black stone, wearing ceremonial armor decorated with gold. Human, his voice echoed through the arena. You have come to face the testing. Choose your weapon and face our champion." Lisa walked to the weapon rack. The swords were heavy and designed for Scaleth hands, but she found one that felt balanced. It was a straight blade with a simple handle. She had trained with swords during her military service, though she preferred modern weapons. The Scaleth champion entered the circle from the opposite side. He was enormous, even for a Scaleth, with muscles like iron cables under his dark scales. His armor was scarred from many battles, and he carried a curved sword that gleamed like silver. The crowd roared when they saw him. "This is Corvash," Zethkar announced. "He has never been defeated in single combat. He has killed champions from 7 different species. Today, he will test the strength of humanity." Lisa entered the circle. The stone beneath her feet was stained with old blood. Corvash looked at her with yellow eyes that showed no emotion. To him, she was already dead. "Begin," Zethkar commanded. Corvash moved faster than Lisa expected. His sword came down in a crushing blow that she barely blocked. The impact sent shockwaves through her arms. He was incredibly strong, much stronger than any human. But Lisa had fought stronger opponents before by being faster and smarter. She dodged his next attack and struck at his side. Her blade scratched his armor but did no real damage. Corvash spun, and his sword whistled past her head, missing by inches. The crowd was making excited sounds, enjoying the fight. For several minutes, they fought back and forth. Lisa used her speed and training to avoid his powerful strikes. She managed to land several hits, but his armor protected him. Slowly, she began to tire. Corvash was not even breathing hard. Then she saw her chance. Corvash raised his sword, high for a killing blow, leaving his chest exposed for just a moment. Lisa lunged forward, putting all her strength behind her thrust. Her blade found a gap in his armor and slid between his ribs. Corvash staggered backward, dark blood flowing from the wound. The crowd fell silent. For a moment, Lisa thought she had won. Then Corvash smiled, showing his sharp teeth. "First blood. To the human," Zethkar said. "But the testing is not finished." Suddenly, more Scaleth warriors entered the circle. Not 1 or 2, but 6 of them, all armed and armored. Lisa's heart sank as she realized the truth. This was never meant to be a fair fight. It was an execution disguised as a trial. "The testing requires that you face multiple opponents," Zethkar explained. His voice filled with cruel amusement. "Surely a strong species can handle a few warriors." Lisa looked at her crew in the stands. Jake was on his feet, his hand on his weapon, but there were too many Scaleth guards around him. Amy looked horrified. Ben was frantically working on his tablet, probably trying to send a message to Earth. The 6 warriors spread out around her. Lisa knew she could not win against so many, but she was determined to fight until the end. She had represented humanity, and she would not die cowering. The first warrior attacked from her left. She parried his strike and cut his throat, but before she could recover, 2 more were on her. A sword blade sliced across her back, cutting through her armor. Another blade found her leg. Lisa fought with desperate skill, but there were too many of them. Every time she dropped one warrior, another took his place. Blood ran down her arms and legs. Her armor was broken in a dozen places. Still she fought, refusing to fall. Finally, a sword pommel struck her head, and she fell to her knees. The warriors stepped back, leaving her bleeding in the center of the circle. The crowd was roaring with approval now, excited by the sight of human blood. Zethkar stood up from his throne and walked into the circle. He drew his own sword, a magnificent blade with a curved edge and a handle wrapped in black leather. "You fought well, human," he said. "Better than most, but you are still weak." Lisa tried to stand, but her legs would not support her. Blood dripped from her wounds onto the stained stone. "My people will come looking for us," she gasped. "Let them come," Zethkar replied. "We will show them the same mercy we show you." He raised his sword above his head. Lisa closed her eyes and thought of Earth, of the blue skies and green forests that she would never see again. But instead of the killing blow she expected, Zethkar grabbed her right wrist and stretched her arm out on the stone. "Death is too quick," he said. "Your people need to understand what weakness brings." The ceremonial blade came down with terrible force. Lisa screamed as it cut through her wrist, severing her hand completely. Blood sprayed across the white stones as she collapsed, clutching her ruined arm. The crowd cheered louder than ever. Zethkar picked up her severed hand and held it high for all to see. "This is the strength of humanity," he shouted. "This is what we do to weak species who dare to challenge the Scaleth." Jake and the others were rushing toward the arena, but Scaleth guards blocked their path. Lisa could hear Jake shouting her name, but his voice seemed to come from very far away. Darkness was closing in around her vision. As consciousness faded, she heard Zethkar giving orders. "Take the humans to the detention cells. Keep the female alive, but do not heal her completely. I want the others to see what happens to those who defy us. Send a message to their home world. Tell them that their diplomats are our prisoners, and their colonies are next." The last thing Lisa saw before the darkness took her was her own severed hand, still wearing her captain's ring, lying in a pool of blood on the arena floor. The Scaleth had not just defeated her, they had made her into a symbol of human weakness for their entire empire to see.